Good morning. It's February 4th, 2026. It's 12:04 p.m., so good afternoon, technically. And this is Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah, the Elohim of the Bible. We are going to cover an array of topics, normal versus not normal, the Melania movie, it's not racism, it's the law, and Iran's game. So we will try to get all this contained within about an hour. Before I do that, so tonight's dinner will be chicken and yellow rice, pretty straightforward. Grill the chicken in the pan while you're cooking the yellow rice. And the trick to making good rice is making sure that the amount of water is brought to a boil, and then you give it the full minute, stirring it, and then placing a secure lid on top and not touching it. Not a stir for at least 25 minutes. So a tight, secure lid is the key to good rice. And that's that. We're going to cover what is normal versus not normal. So the show I really like is Death Valley Days. It, again, spans from 1952 to 1972. So pretty long history, about 450-ish episodes. And every episode contains a moral lesson and an interesting glimpse into the past, because as the old ranger likes to say at the beginning and the end, these are actually true stories about how the American West was settled, and how life was really back then. And the people, the townspeople in many episodes, would actually be in a state of unrest due to a lax lawman, right? Or a judge who didn't keep the territory safe for the townsfolk. So several episodes come to mind. One of the most recent ones I watched just this week was just that. A lady who in the beginning of the movie, or the show, her father was essentially killed by this bad guy. Well, because of technicalities, the judge of the town had to release the bad guy, even though he did commit murder. So then the bad guy is, free to go and do whatever. Well, she's upset that the judge let him go. Even the sheriff is upset that the judge let him go. Fast forward through several events in the movie, well, another murder happens outside of a mine. And now the townspeople are ready to hang the judge because they're blaming this innocent death on the judge being laxed. So the townspeople go in a rioting mob / fashion, not to cuddle the criminal, not to go tell him good job for killing an innocent townsperson who is just doing their purpose, right? This person is mining their claim, doing no harm, doing what he's supposed to be doing, right? Living the American pioneer dream. And then he gets killed and robbed. So the people, right, they're going to apprehend the suspect because they don't want criminals in their town. And guess who they blame if there is a criminal situation? So this is the interesting part. If any crime happened, the townspeople would be protesting outside of the sheriff's station, saying, when are you going to do something about this? You let the lawbreakers into our peaceful town. You let these people be hurt or stolen from or whatever, right? Even there was an episode, not this one, but another one, where the townspeople had voted on, like, one saloon at the end of town, and that way it was separated from the hotels, the restaurants, the apocries, like just the general righteous business of the town. And then like a rich, slick city slicker comes in, right, wanting to open up another bar. Well, anyway, the good townspeople, they ran him out because they knew back then that they didn't want that level of sin to be all encompassing on the good townspeople. It's not a good look, right? And sure enough, the righteous side won, and wins in the cases of Death Valley Days. Because if they didn't win in real life, then the American West would actually not even be the American West. So how the West was won was actually not because of the Wild West Outlaws. The Wild West Outlaws existed to ensure that the proper lawmen were sent from east to west to get the crime under control. That's the truth. And people like Wyatt Earp were actually celebrated for their fearlessness in prosecuting criminals. It had absolutely nothing to do with if you were a white settler, if you were a freed black settler, if you were a Mexico-American. None of that plays any role. Because crime is a verb, not a color. Crime does not know what city or state or country, because crime is a verb. It is what you do. And it is the actions in which you do that cause retribution. Now, today, the townspeople are rioting to keep the bad guys. So I'll say that again. The townspeople are rioting to keep the bad guys, and in the same breath, they are shaming those who are enforcing the law. Now, if masses of people are either convinced that the wrong way is actually the right way, then that leads us to our next step. So then it's those leading these false ideals are either uneducated in righteousness, and they are so layered with others' opinions that there is actually no thoughts being drummed up in their mind. So, to this point, you have to wonder why. Well, this goes directly hand in hand with the fraud that's being uncovered, and I mean not a few $100s as the Democrats would make you think. This is millions, and it surpasses the M word and goes into the B word. Billions of dollars. So then we can look very clearly at public records and see who's getting rich and how. This goes back to having foreign actors and interest in American politics. It shouldn't belong there. And those that are in positions of elected official spots, they're being coerced by foreign governments. That's actually against the Constitution of the United States of America, right? We do not need foreign actors or even American citizens working on behalf of foreign actors, right? And then essentially shaving money off the top of the American treasury. Who does that hurt? That hurts the everyday men and women who are getting up, going to work, they're paying taxes, they're taking kids to school, they're purchasing their groceries, they're buying homes, they're buying cars, they're paying their bills, and what do they want? With 10 out of 10, they want neighborhoods that are safe for their kids. So they're not rioting. Or if they do, then again, they are more or less not created by heaven, or they have no biblical guidance. They're obviously being led by a false light. They are the ones being led by what Scripture would say, false angels, right? Or false light. Like, they're trying to appeal to the emotional dereliction of people to get, essentially, to raise an army, right? It's what they're doing. They're raising civilians and illegals mixed against the law. This is the same thing that would happen in the Old West. And again, this goes right back to the episode of Death Valley days, where the town was actually going to vote and depart from the United States of America. So they decided on a new name, the Rough and Ready, which was pretty stupid. And the woman in the show is probably the only grown-up in the room when we're talking about this contained episode. She's telling her husband, like, you are stupid. Like, you're trying to surrender our citizenship to America, which is a free land, to be the Rough and Ready, right? It sounds stupid. And then they go further to elect a stupid person to be a president. And before too long, this person is essentially a dictator, right? He's using his power and influence of being an elected official to do whatever he wants to do. This is exactly what democratic sanctuary cities are currently doing, and they're apparently doing it impunitively of the law, which is against the law in itself. So, back to the point here, several points. So again, it was only when the right head, when the right mindset was then taken to say, we are crapping all over our own freedoms for the sake of the opinions of others. That's actually what's called dogma, which is interesting. So you are, again, as they say, right, you're cutting off your nose despite your face. Like, what you're doing is actually harming the real people who are supporting the infrastructure of the United States of America. And again, this goes back through every single layer, right? You have absolutely unaccountable and unintuned celebrities, right? Billie Eilish is a wonderful example. She just built a $14 million home on a literal, reservation, to the point where she's having her own problem with Indian Native American protesters because she just built her big fat house on their land. Meanwhile, she wants to talk down to American citizens, saying that you basically can't kick out illegals on stolen land. That's why I covered yesterday the very deep seditious evil that was in North and South America because of children sacrifice, perpetual war. I mean, war was breakfast, lunch, and dinner with no holidays included. That was what they eat, breathe, and live for, just like the Iranian regime. So, again, and things are reversed, right? Because in real life, the people of Minnesota should have been rioting 2 decades ago, saying, get the murderers out of our neighborhood. Get the people that are murdering, like the Lake and Rileys, who are on university campuses, to become better individuals and to become a purposeful citizen in the United States and a contributor. No. They are raped and murdered at the hands of illegal citizens or illegal immigrants. So it doesn't matter if that illegal immigrant was a Chinese, if it was if the person came down from the mountains of Caucasus and is white, is transparent, is translucent. It doesn't matter, because crime is not a race. Crime is not a location. Crime is a verb. I think the Democratic Party needs to go back to elementary school and learn their ABCs of 1, 2, 3s, and they need to learn about how to walk in line the right way. They need to not spit on the floor. They need to respect the teacher. And they need to go hop into that cool fire truck in the 2nd grade and pull the horn and find a little bit of patriotism that should be in there. Because if not, then you have no business in America. You are a direct threat to the good citizens of the United States of America. And again, this is very easy to see the gap. I bring up the Death Valley days because the 50s and the 60s, right? On one side of the 60s, you had the liberals, right? They're pushing free love, peace, sex before marriage. They're having bastard babies, and guess what happens? Those bastard babies, they end up with no soul, no spirit, and they end up with no actual headspace that's beneficial for anyone. So instead, they become a burden. As I said, over a 20-year period, there was 17.8 million babies born without married parents. Therefore, they do not have angels, nor do they have souls or spirits. So they are like the non-player characters. If you've ever played video games, there are certain characters that you can walk up to and have a dialogue with, right? The character may put you on a quest. The character has a level of depth. There is a story. And then there's a lot of characters that you walk through in the game, and if you bump into them, they would have very basic responses like, oh, I'm sorry. And you could just kind of keep bumping them, and they just keep repeating the same thing. Because they're non-player characters, right? They're not actually connected as an enlightened being that a human being is, right? So these are big problems, and mostly burdens on society. So how do we change that? We do not have sex before marriage. We do not have children before marriage. And then guess what? You get the assigned angel, and then you get to have heavenly help whenever is necessary. So I will come back to normal versus not normal. But, so again, it isn't called racism, as Democrats like to constantly play the divider card and the ruthless tyrants of America card. It's not racism, it's the law. Now, if a human being breaks an established code, then it pays the price equally and fairly. Because the laws of the United States don't just apply to whites or blacks or Hispanics or Asians or Russians or Somalians. No. That law is to be followed equally and fairly. And if that law is broken, they are treated with the same equal and fairness in the justice. So, that would be like saying, if I were to categorize and say, who do we have the most illegal of? We have an array of them, right? We have the Somalians, we have Germans, we have English, Australian, we have lots of Mexicans, lots of Venezuelans. Like, it doesn't matter, right? It has nothing to do with that. Because when people blame it on the race card, they're trying to pull the race card or somehow tell the ones that are being impacted the most that it has everything to do with their race, it actually makes no sense. Because if someone is here illegal, then they as a human are here illegal. Crime is a verb. It's what you do, not what you look like. Actions drive decisions. Not race, not religion, not your gender, your actions. If you interfere with law enforcement, you're going to go to jail. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, Mexican, brown, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter. You are going to be penalized equally. If you are in the United States of America and your visa has expired, you are now here illegally. I don't care if you are an Australian national. Go home. Get out of America. Because, as I've been saying, I as Elohim need to know what citizens are in the true bottom 20%. Because then the resources that are actually governed and granted and given to those people, they're going to actually receive it. Because instead of the bottom 20% of Americans, right, who may be disabled, they can't work, or whatever the situation is, but they qualify for SNAP benefits, for Medicaid, they need help, they need services, they need childcare, they need housing, they need all these things. Well, if it's bloated to the point that it's only 1 out of every 5 actual citizens that is receiving the money, then that means there are 4 other Americans who are getting the shaft. That's not fair. So, I need to remove the 4 illegal citizens who are in this country illegally to get them out of the way. So I can then fill in the 4 American citizens. And then if I'm spending $500 billion on American subsidies for Americans, I can better manage the money. I am not going to be able, the United States Treasury is not going to be able to do anything to actually fix any problems if we constantly hide behind the race card and what senseless, stupid, democratic celebrities say. I have a plan for them too. Alrighty. Alright, so let's go into Iran's game. Oh, one of the honeybees are out the window. Very cool. It's like, I hear your voice. So, Iran's game. So, nukes actually do not worry me. So far, the world has seen 0 deaths from nuclear devices. But, the world has seen hundreds of thousands, if not millions, dead from the roots of actual evil seeded from Iran. Because the truth of the matter is, small arms and ballistic missiles in the hands of jihadists, Islamic jihadists, or otherwise barbarians, is the real threat, not nukes. How would any free country secure itself from these types of people? Because if Iran is peddling in small arms and pipe bombs and then ballistic missiles to put on a big show for their feverish barbarian, people, again, that has nothing to do with nukes. We need to solve these problems, not just for American safety, but if we want to have partners to trade with in the future, and we want access to resources that the world has, that I as God put in the earth, then we need to make sure that everybody's willing to play the game. The game of trade, the game of culture, and the game of righteousness. Because I'll be damned if I'm ever going to open Mars up for them to be some bullshit jihad coming on a spaceship and then traveling to Mars. Then I'm going to have the exact same problem I have here today. I am never going to start getting these problems actually solved and cured indefinitely when people walk around with no common sense, no righteousness, and their fear of political persecution. So, small arms and ballistic missiles is the true problem when it comes to Iran, not nukes. And here are some options on how a free country can secure itself from these types of people. One option, which I don't know who's thinking about these options, but I know it's being floated. Let's change their mindsets. Well, these people make it a prerogative to chant death to America and death to Israel on a daily routine basis. So, convincing them to become somehow neutral and peaceful doesn't seem very likely. It doesn't seem very likely. So, 2, we could ensure that they do not have the ability to harm anybody, which is, I believe, the correct way to go. Because it isn't like we're sitting here with nothing to do and we go, hey, I think there's a country that could benefit from some Americana. That's not what we're doing. It is not like America is sitting back looking to pick a fight. America is sitting back trying to prevent the next 9/11. But guess who makes big whimpers and whines about it? The Democrats. Because the fact is, it's actually not about political lines. It's about right and wrong, good and evil, crime versus no crime. Democrats are openly committing crime, and then they protect it. They feel that if you're not engaging in the crimes that they commit, then you're somehow the bad guy. If you're not willing to harbor fugitives for the sake of getting elected, are you even a Democrat? Like, you gotta wake up. And the only reason these buffoons are able to stand is because there are brainwashed masses of people who have voted for these dumbasses, and 2, they're so easily mobilized to go out into the streets. Like, again, folks, if you are protesting on the middle of the afternoon on a Wednesday, what do you do for work? Like, I don't even have a human job, and I am too busy to go out and protest anything. I have a family to take care of, a video to make, I have judgments to write, dinners to cook, bees to tend to, and dogs to feed. So what do they have going on in their life that they can so easily make blockades for ICE, spit in police officers' faces? I have a place for you folks. Believe it or not, if the human people don't take care of you, I as God will take care of you, and not in the good way. There is a place called hell. It is a very, very real place. It is a not fun place. There is no escaping hell. There is no way out of there. And so much of the behaviors and character traits that I see as Elohim on earth are really in line with that direction. So, go ahead, put your foot on the gas pedal and keep trying to propagate your very short human lives, because eventually when you die, you get to see me. And then I get to put your ass on the scales of justice. Rarely, and I mean 1 out of 10 million rare, do I ever go against the scale of justice. The only time I go against the scale of justice is if somebody makes that confession and a repentance and a plea for mercy to do better, to do right. And even then, usually I don't even listen to them, right? Because then I ask, well, you had 80 or 90 or 100 years to learn right from wrong, but yet you continued to do wrong. You continued to lie. You continue to do all these things. So hell is where they go. That is where they go. Next up here. Yep, so ensuring that they don't have the ability to harm anybody, that would require military action to accomplish that feat. That would mean that, well, I'll get there. I don't want to jump ahead. Now, the next option would be, or what I would call a liberal's dream, is to just join them, right? Because if it's wicked and evil, then you bet your ass that a liberal or a Democrat is going to stand in solidarity with it. That's how mind-numb these people truly are. And it's even sad to think that people so mindless and wasteful, like the Bad Bunnies and the Billie Eilishes of the world, they're complete ignorant fools, but yet there are millions of people that are getting them rich. Meanwhile, the good teachers, the good police officers are having to take the shit from little brats coming from these very households. I, as Elohim, have no choice but to pass judgments in these exact lanes. You have been warned. Sweareth I, saith the Lord God of creation, thus it is coming for you. Next, my favorite would be an exile. Exile the entire party. Tehran, the Democrats, and the Libs. We exile the whole party, including the Libs, to Queen Maud Land. It's 1 million square miles of frozen tundra. We could drop you all off and then make sure you don't leave. The problem would eventually solve itself. That's a fact. And Persia and the Persian people are not the same as the regime of Iran, right? Or its barbaric regime. Because at this point, it wouldn't be an action against a real nation. It's actually removing illegitimate settlements with a terrorist organization running the show. Hitting Iran. It'd be better for Persians, better for all nations on earth, and safer for all humans under the actual God of creation, who is I. If we remove the head, the entire body dies. My suggestion for the Iran situation is as follows. Stage 1. Hit military targets. Disable coordinated efforts so the splinter cells do not emerge. Remove the Ayatollah, his top brass, and destroy missile depots. Stage 2. Middle East Board of Free Nations to share in local security efforts while the new democratic government is put into place. Stage 3. America and Israel exit the stage, and then it's up to the new government to work with diplomats from all the other free nations of the world to help it succeed. The Saudis can chip in for new infrastructure, municipalities, as they are the ones that are closest in the region to actually be a transition team. So, the likes of Erdogan and Turkey, no way. Turkey, you're up next. Erdogan, I suggest you change the way you pray, and I suggest you start doing it to me. Because your butt is about to be cooked. Your goose is up next on the roster, just letting you know. And then, sending a drone. Iran, in my opinion, and that's the only one that matters, that is the last straw. Disregarding good faith diplomatic efforts, and then, even when you have no chance on this literally green earth to anyway defeat the United States military, but then you have the gumption to send a drone just to be disrespectful. I conclude the talks need to be off. We need to stop the dog and pony show. We know the Democrats are going to be in the streets rioting. I say we let them. Let them burn their own cities to the fucking ground. And instead, if it comes down to it, then we should just annex California from the rest of the civilized world and let their liberal hellhole be a sanctuary state We can put up a 90-foot wall around California and all the Looney Tunes can hang out there or on Queen Maud Island. And there you go. You can have your own economy, your own people, your own rules. Gavin Newsom can be your own president, and there you go. And here in the real America, we don't have to watch your stupid TV shows. We don't have to listen to your stupid actors or celebrities. And in fact, the good law-abiding people who are proud to be an American can be proud to be an American without being persecuted by illegal aliens who are essentially demonstrable, whatever your race is. So, I will take a 5, regroup, and then round it out. And we're back. So we'll try to round this out with some very simple messaging. There are easy things, and then there are hard things. Eliminating murderers is not a hard thing. That is a very easy decision. Some would be so lucky to have such easy decisions to make. Because when you do the right thing, it doesn't matter who's pointing the finger at you as long as you are doing the right thing. If you are doing the wrong thing, right and wrong. Eliminating a terrorist regime, nukes be damned, is the right thing. There's no other way around it. It is the only humanitarian thing to do. And if we were not going to do anything, then why are we wasting millions of tax dollar monies on floating around? This isn't Battleship the game. As Yoda said so famously, either do or do not. But do not try. And the same goes for my churches and religious institutions. Either do or do not. But do not clutter up my direction unto earth with bullshit. It's sickening. I'm over it. And I am done for the day.